Hello, buddy. My name is Shadow Mouse. Miska, Muska, Hantavirus.
I'm gonna so regret this. Hello everyone, my name is Sharon and I will be presenting the Hantavirus disease. This is what it looks like. It is very pretty, but bad to your body. It looks like flowers, and these flower-like structures are spike complexes made of glycoproteins GN and GC. And in recent investigations, it has been discovered that these glycoproteins interact with the nucleocapsid protein to increase the efficacy of its transmission, and it bodies into the Golgi cisternae once it enters the body. I don't know how to speak. It has inside of it there are 3 RNA strands: the small, the medium, and the large. And the amount of genomic variation among these strands account for different types and genera of the virus. But what is actually hantavirus? It is a negative sense RNA virus. It is considered airborne, and I'll tell you why later on. It is a zoonosis disease, meaning that it transmits via animals. It circulates asymptomatically in rodents, insectivores, and bats, but rodents are most prominent in the wait, hold on, let me put that in here. In the transmission of it. Look at these. They look so cute. They're like straight outside of the fairy tale. Anyway, it is considered airborne because it is rare to uh, get the disease from a bite of the animal. It is usually it is usually transmitted via aerosolization of fecal matter, saliva, and urine of these animals. Its taxonomy is really fun because it comes from the Boniaviralis order, and the Hantavirus is actually a family, not the genus. The family Hantaviridae, and the genus will be Orthohantavirus. Why is the family instead of the genus? Because in 2016 it got promoted to family due to the amount of variation in its classification, in its genomic sequencing, and in the recently most discovered genre of the viruses. In here we got different examples of the mice that transmit the diseases. And an electron micrograph of the number virus. So this is a common European vole, this is an Eastern deer mouse, and this is a common bristly mouse. Both of these account for hantavirus pulmonare syndrome. This responsible for the transmission of the Sinombre virus, and this is responsible for the transmission of the Andes virus. Whereas this little guy right here, it's responsible for the transmission of the Tula virus, which is an example of hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome type of hantavirus. You might be wondering why I chose this specifically. It is because of the following reasons. The Tula virus has been discovered to affect immunocompetent people, which it's not really special since this disease doesn't affect any group specifically, only those that are exposed to rodents and rural areas where they can get the disease from the aerosolization of their fecal matter, urine, or saliva. But it's a good example besides the common European ball is really cute. Then we got the C-number virus, which has a fun story behind it, but it actually accounts for the most lethal of them, I guess you could say that, and the most prevalent of the New World viruses of the Hantavirus family. The C-number virus, as a fun fact, was named like that because sin nombre means no name in Spanish, and the virologists just chose to not give it a name because when they were trying to name it after places they isolated the virus from, like Monte Cañon or the Four Corners, people got mad. Sorry. Sorry. People got mad that they were naming a virus after your city or whatever. So the virologists eventually grew tired of it and just let it be without a name. And then we got the Andes virus, which is the only virus that can actually transmit person to person because this virus actually, well, this disease in general doesn't transmit person to person. It doesn't transmit via contact. It, it only transmits via aerosolization, or in rare cases a bite um, from the infected animal, which is why it's mostly considered an airborne disease. And then I was mentioning before the old world versus the new world viruses. The old world account for hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome viruses. It's the effect they usually have. And the new world accounts for the hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. And the differences between these two hasn't been exactly found yet. In spite of the research efforts, the sequencing differences don't actually show any particular reason as to why these particular effects are most prevalent in certain continents, as the old world, of course, accounts for the Eurasia region, whereas the new world accounts for the Americas and Oceania. And yeah, it's sad. But the mortality rates for the old world are really low compared to New World. They are between 1% and 15%, whereas the New World are around 50%. And the treatments for both of the types are are pretty basic. They don't have specific treatments other than secondary aid for specific conditions of the type of the virus, such as dialysis hydration, intravenous ribavirin, and antiviral drugs for hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome due to all the fluid loss and the low blood pressure, low blood pressure and oxygen assistance and medical care for hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. And if you are wondering, there are no vaccines for this disease in general. So it's just a matter of prevent and diagnose it earlier on. So how do you diagnose it? You test for it. Why is that? Because. And I got the wrong slide. I will answer that question in the following slide, not this one. But we got different phases of the virus. Before I move into symptoms of the disease, I will talk about the phases of the different kinds. And both of them basically have the same phases. They go first phase febrile, where you got the fever, then shock with the addition of pulmonary edema for pulmonary syndrome, which is caused by the fluid filling your lungs, and then they evolve into oliguria, diuresis, and convalences. Oliguria and diuresis are responsible for uh, fluid retention and then loss of fluid in your body. And then convalescence is just getting better eventually. So moving to the symptoms. Yay, symptoms. Most of the symptoms are the same, and symptoms and signs are the same than those of influenza, which makes it hard to diagnose at first glance, just as a saying, and it's the reason why you should test for it in case that abdominal pain or any sign of kidney failure or shortness of breath start showing. These signs and symptoms usually appear after 1 to 8 weeks after exposure. So 1 to 8 weeks post exposure, or 1 to 2 weeks in hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. After the first 10 days, the symptoms start becoming more specific to the type of the virus you have. And in hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome causes kidney failure, rashes, and retininitis, which looks like that. And in the pulmonary syndrome causes damages to your lungs, which eventually leads to coughing and shortness of breath. And yes, enjoy the pictures, I guess. It is really important to note that the low blood pressure is what causes the hemorrhagic fever in the HFRS kind. So yeah, this has been my disease. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. These are my sources. And as a fun fact before leaving, there are no recorded cases in Australia of the disease. So you know how we talk about the old world viruses versus the new world viruses. For Australia, there are no recorded cases. It is theorized that it's because of the casual prevention against rodents, since they are prevalent there, and against other insects in general. Australia is a scary place, especially spiders, but mostly rodents. So, yes, if you don't want to get hantavirus, go to Australia. But if you already got hantavirus, don't go to Australia. Let's keep those reports low and enjoy life.